Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I am delighted to be here. My name is Paul John Dykes, and I'm delighted because I'm joined not only by the old school and Kevin Graham, but some of the new school and Jerry Taylor. Welcome to Acsom on a Monday afternoon, gentlemen. We're here to talk all things Celtic. And you know where I was this morning? I was up at James McGrory Park. Kevin Graham, you were up there recently. They were actually talking about it. You were up there recently. We were up there talking about our forthcoming game.
What did you do, Kev?
I don't know. I didn't have any drink in me, so I didn't actually do nothing that I shouldn't have done. So
did you have pyro? Did you have pyro though?
No. I stashed it for the game, for our game, like a couple
behind
of
a brick in the wall. I know that game. Obviously, Jerry was up there promoting the big game, the centenary match, and St Rochs are a side that have got historical links with Celtic. We know the stadium itself is called James McGrory Park, and we know that James McGrory played with the Rock and signed for Celtic, went on to become the greatest goal scorer in British football history. Unbelievable. Even now, when you see the big top 10 goal scorer lists all around the globe and all that, you see Jimmy McGrory's name on it. Phenomenal. So I was up there today meeting our good friend, Stevie Mullen. Stevie's a pal of Acsom. He was here when we started the live streaming. Kev, you'll notice it in the early days of the live streaming. And Stevie was in there. Always prepared, always there with his notebook. Phenomenal contributor. And I remember during the pandemic, he said, Paul, I don't do tech. All this dialing in. No, I'm not doing this. That was the only reason Stevie stopped coming on to Acsom. But it was great to see him up there on a Monday morning. And we were having a look around the stadium. And a wander round a different kind of paradise will be on the channel tonight about 6 o'clock.
Did you get what I meant on Saturday about the Portaloos?
I wasn't in the Portaloos.
Like anybody that's been to James McGrory Park will know this. If you are anything above 5'7", you have to duck to get into the gents' toilets.
All right.
That's what I was going on about, that none of the Livingston team would be able to get into the toilets at St Rochs. That's what I was going on about.
Perfect segue. Perfect segue to the game.
Just to clear that up for anybody that was wondering why I was going on about Livingston players in the toilets at James McGrory Park.
Exactly.
Saturday.
That was a wee bit left field, Kev, but we do come to expect that from your good self. Livingston, Jerry and I watched the game, I say together, but virtually, and obviously some of the Acsom team were at the match. First thing I would say about it is we always go into these games, Kev. I'll come to you first, mate. We always come into these games and we talk about Livingston being a difficult place to go, but let's not forget Ange kind of blew that one out the water, because when Ange came, that hoodoo, that kind of record that we had there at the Tony Macaroni Arena, that was shelved because we started getting results under Ange, and thankfully Brendan Rodgers continued that at the weekend.
He did, and let's know, we're coming back off a European week, right? And it was a hard shift in Rotterdam. Then you're going to a 12:30 kick-off on a Saturday in a stadium where historically we have found it difficult. It's not the best pitch. They're not the best team to play against. I've been very critical of them, but there's part of me, that's probably just part of me admiring the way that Martindale goes about his business. He's got no money. He buys players that are a certain height, a certain physicality. He knows the way that he wants to play. They're bored, their new owner and all like that. They're quite happy to give Celtic 7,000 tickets because they've got no fans. They're quite happy to take your money. So fair play to Livingston, maybe some of the other clubs in Scottish football, instead of moaning about the Celtic coin, could actually just get on board with the Celtic coin, and maybe they can sign guys at 6'7" and finish in the top 6 and rubbish like that. But again, you can only be grateful that Celtic went there and done a hell of a professional job.
Yeah, they did.
And we done a hell of a professional job. We controlled that game after we went down to 10 men. We were controlling the game with 11 men anyway. And obviously you go down to 10 men, you get a wee bit jumpy when you're only a goal up and stuff like that, But I think a lot of the panic when you watch the game back, we were comfortable in the game, and it was a great. No, it wasn't a flamboyant performance. It was a tactical performance, which basically we controlled the game from start to finish. Then Brendan got brilliant right on the end of the fans at the final whistle was saving that wee boy for getting huckled. Eh?
I love that.
Pity it was his nephew, but then that's where we're not going.
This is the thing. The humour always comes out, Jerry, in moments like that, and you see the footage and you think brilliant, and then obviously he's a plant, and you know all this kind of stuff. I love it.
Is it his nephew?
No.
No,
Jerry.
That's Kev just like that with the fishing rod. Brilliant. Reeled it right in.
Let's go with a conspiracy theorist that it was his nephew and it was set up by Peter Wall to get him back on the side of the game brigade, right?
Well,
I'll fire that conspiracy theory out there.
I'm going to start with Brennan. Sorry, Jerry, on you go.
Do you know what I love about that? Like, as soon as I saw it, I thought, because he got a load of fans back on side. Some that were maybe still, the jury was still out of Brendan, and I loved it. But you know what's going to happen now, don't you? The next win, we're going to have about 20,000 Waynes running around the park. I mean, it'll be like the Pied Piper. So that'd be fun.
You know this, it always takes me back, and I've told this story, but for anybody who's joined us in recent months, the 1995 Scottish Cup final, Kevin Graham and I, the first season tickets we ever got, but we did get them individually, we didn't know each other back then, was in season 94-95. It was the infamous Hampden season. It was really difficult, that campaign. It really was, because Fergus had taken over, and as football fans, you just want us to buy players and stop Rangers from winning another league title. But Fergus was really concentrating on the stadium and all the rest of it. And the big buy, of course, was Pierre. Pierre came over for, I think it was 1.2 million from NAC Breda, and he scores that goal. And it was a terrible game against Airdrie at Hampden. And my season ticket, Kev, was behind the goal in the Celtic end all season. And then I got a ticket that was in a completely different part of the season, the stadium rather, for the final. I was in the front row, terrible view, as far away from the goal as could possibly be, because it was, I think, a 9th minute header by Pierre, great cross by Tosh. And I remember after the game, and I'm standing there with a brand new jersey, Kev, because we used to launch a jersey just before the Scottish Cup final to get all the sales, so all the fans wanted to buy it for the Scottish Cup final. And I'm standing there, it's the one with the thick hoop followed by the small thin hoop, and it's kind of aged really well over the years.
Really well.
It has. And I was just finding out recently, actually, the guy who went through on the bus with us that day and who was sitting in the same section, forgive me, I don't know his real name. We just called him the Hair Bear because he looked like the Ultimate Warrior. He had the hair and all the rest. It was, anyway, I just found out that he passed away. So condolences to any friends and family of the Hair Bear, because he did look after me that day at Hampden. And I'm standing at the wall as Celtic were doing the lap of honour. And I know Celtic started singing the Fields Athenry before that season, but that's the season that I kind of became aware of the song, Jerry. And the fans were singing the Fields, and all the players were doing it as well. And even like Charlie Nick, he was in his suit. He wasn't stripped that day. He was walking around and he's singing and he's belting out the Fields Athenry, and I'm singing away. There's a guy behind me wearing the Republic Island jersey, Opal, right? The classic Republic Island jersey. Big Wex. I wonder if he tunes into Acsom. It'd be great if I found out who he was. And he's pushing me. He's going, right, wee man, you're next. You're on the pitch next. And all these people running on the park. Because, I mean, we hadn't won a trophy for 6 years at the time. 1989 Scottish Cup final was the last trophy. And I'm like, no, I was a bit timid. You know what I mean, Jerry? I was like, just a wee daft fifer. I know, I'm not doing that. And he was like, no problem. He kind of shoved me out the road and jumped over the wall and ran on the park. So that night, I'm sitting there, and my old dear used to tape the games, right? And I would go home and watch, and you're looking for yourself. And I'm like, dearie me, there's two cops, and they've huckled this guy, and his arm's right up his back. He's getting led off the pitch. And it's the Irish boy that was trying to get me on the pitch. He's getting huckled. He's going to be in the police cells for the night. And I was telling my folks the story. They're like, oh, dearie me. I think I was 15 at the time. So invading the pitch has never been my thing. But the wee guy at the weekend has become something of a legend, and it feeds into the Brendan is back. And, you know, I want to talk about Brendan because I think that it's easy to look at the team and say we're not as attractive in terms of the playing style as maybe we were under Ange. I get all that. But you look at 3 games, right? You look at the Rangers game, going to Ibrox, and we're going into that game against Rangers with no fans in the stadium, and we're playing a central defensive partnership, Jerry, who had played together once. And that was in the previous game against St Johnstone. And it's Gustav Lagerbielke and Liam Scales. Liam Scales, who had been written off by many people. Lagerbielke, who I think had been brought in as backup. And they go into that Ibrox game and we win the game. We win that game away from home and we bring the points back. We then go into the Champions League Again, makeshift defence. Players in that team making their first appearances at that level. And we get 2 guys sent off. And instead of capitulating, we were able tactically, going back to what Kev says, tactically to get through that game, albeit with a loss. It was a 2-0 loss. And Feyenoord showed at the weekend what they can do to top teams. 2-0 loss. And we might actually look at that and think, wow, that's what's got us through to whatever the next stage of Europe's going to be beyond Christmas, hopefully, due to the goal difference. We go into that game at the weekend. Could be a tricky tie. What happens? Your goalie gets sent off. So for me, I think it's a tactical masterclass that we came through those 3 games the way that we did, Jerry. And I think the first port of call is Brendan Rodgers. Yeah, it was great after the game what he did with the wee guy. But looking at his tactics, looking at the manager, the coach that he has become since he left Celtic, and looking and observing the changes that he's making at Celtic, and I think he deserves a lot of credit at this stage of the season.
Absolutely. And I liked his wee dig back in the presser yesterday when he says, but we're struggling, aren't we? Apparently we're struggling, or something along those lines. But what stood out for me is his calmness in these situations.
Yes.
I mean, I made a joke about how I think he likes getting somebody sent off because as soon as the camera pans to him, he's there, he's businesslike, he's calm, and that feeds through to the team. He obviously drills them in these all the time. He's always got a plan B, plan C, plan D from what I hear. He deserves a lot of credit. Going right back as well, he deserves a lot of credit for coming back, right? For taking a lot of stick, for he's had everything thrown at him. It wasn't his transfer window because he said he was going to take a year out. So I'm guaranteed he's not been focused on what he usually does by looking at players in different leagues, because that's what Brendan Rodgers does. He's always watching football. He's come straight back into it with obviously a blank canvas now. Been getting a load of abuse thrown at him, injuries that he couldn't have avoided, can't get the signings in that he needed because it probably wasn't enough time. And look what he's doing. Look what he's doing just now. How good are we going to be when we've got all our team back, when we've got no suspensions and we're settled? Because we're not settled yet. I think the Feyenoord game was the game that sparked their team back into life. I think it was almost, I wouldn't say we wanted it, but it was almost kind of needed. It was that unity. As soon as we went down to those 9 men, to get through that and then to do it again at the weekend, it's only going to bode well for us going forward, I think. I hope so, anyway.
Well, it's interesting you say that, right? Because, Kev, you've been to many of these events that I've been talking to guys who were involved in the league championship when under Wim Jansen. I know a lot of people don't like us saying it's stopping at 10 because that puts the focus on another team. But that was a pivotal moment, Kev. And when you talk to the players and you talk to them about an incident that happened at training, when the team were in a bit of adversity, the first Rangers game of the season had been delayed. It had been rescheduled due to the death of Diana. And we were going into a Rangers game and one of our top players had his nose broken at Barrafield because Tosh McKinley headbutted him. So you look at that moment, right? And you ask a lot of the players, Kev, what was the moment that the season turned around? Because it didn't start off well. And some of them actually say, see that moment there? That's what galvanised us as a team. Because up to that moment, there was cliques. There was cliques developing, right? And they say it. They actually say it quite openly. You had the Scottish boys, Kev. You had the Scandinavian guys who would maybe keep themselves. He says, and there was a lot of tension that was kind of building up. And that day, when poor Tosh headbutted Henrik, the star man, was the day that the tension actually evaporated. So sometimes I think you need to be backs to the wall and you come through it and you come through it stronger. Kev, I mean, what's your thoughts on that one?
No, I think I would rather be like no, I'm not going to condone that if you're in a football team or in a rugby team or anything like that, you punch somebody. Just if you're on a losing run, you punch somebody.
What about an Acsom night out, Kev?
Yeah.
An awards ceremony.
I would probably be the first one that would get punched.
No.
Truthfully, but no, I'm not. But I like. You look at managers, they've Alex Ferguson, Jose Mourinho, Neil Lennon. They were always best when they actually have a siege mentality.
I like that.
When they've got something that they can go, everybody's against us, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Even Martin O'Neill. Martin O'Neill, what story did he say? Was it Blackburn? All he did was clip up the newspaper clippings of Graham Souness's post-match at Celtic Park. Didn't have to say nothing else. He didn't need to say anything else. And I think maybe the criticism of this team is irking some of them because they do seem like a close group. And I do think, I mean, you look at all these professional football players in any sport, they are competing against each other as well. So there is going to be guys who didn't quite like each other because they're vying for the same position, or they seem the manager likes him better than me. That is always going to be the case. But one thing that will pull everything together is these outside guys didn't actually trust you. They're saying you're rotten, by the way, and they're going, no, we're no rotten. We're going to prove them wrong. We're going to do this and going to do that. And I think some managers do it very openly, but managers like Postecoglou and Rodgers probably do it slightly differently. They'll do it behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Going, these guys, we're getting a bit of abuse here. And Rodgers kind of let the wee mask slip because I think he knows, maybe he knows himself. He's seen something in the dressing room. We've turned this. So I can come out and say this in the press now. I thought we were doing badly. He's seen something change in that dressing room. Maybe folk have got new on board with him more and more, and he's seen an attitude slightly change. When you have a look at, I loved the fact that we went 2 up front when we went down to 10 men, and it got me dreaming of going back to a 4-4-2. I wonder if you could get 2 guys up front, like the way Kyogo went out wide. And just dragging centre halves out wide, Maeda through the middle and that, and I'm going, well, maybe the diamond in the middle of the park's no really working, because you look at the work McGregor and O'Reilly are putting in, and Atati once again, like, I'm going to be negative, didn't do any defensive contribution once again. Maeda had 5 tackles on Saturday. Atati had nothing. He's a centre midfielder. You know what I love? Maeda's actually doing more defensive work than one of your centre midfielders. And I'm going, you look at Matt O'Reilly now. Matt O'Reilly's changed from a guy who was a certain type of midfielder to a box-to-box midfielder who'll be on the edge of one box, one in the box, one minute, and he's up the park. He's up there trying to get the Henderson. It's almost as if he's been Petrovized.
I like that.
See that? What was that word, Kev?
Petrovized. I like it.
Petrovized.
Stan Petrov. Oh, yes. Yes.
Petrovized. So I just made it up.
That's brilliant.
But that's what it looks like. It looks like he's really enjoying the role that he's actually got. And it could be that Brendan's just had a wee look and he's gone, there's a slight change in the attitude now in this dressing room. They're getting into it. They're getting into what I'm doing. They're getting into my pragmatism. They now know that they didn't need to do everything at 100 mile an hour because that's what the last man told them. They were brilliant at. Look at Greg Taylor. Greg Taylor was utterly immense on Saturday.
He was.
He was utterly immense. And that was him coming inside, going wide. And so, there's maybe been a wee bit of a sea change in the attitude of the team, and it could be the factors that last half hour in Feyenoord, down to 9 men, has galvanised that team. Yeah, and so, look, we didn't want to be down to 9 men. We didn't want to get beat 2-0 in Europe, no. But if it leads on to better things, and it's maybe the surface that we needed.
Sometimes, Kev, it is the siege mentality. I like that. And some of the top managers operated with that situation, and they operated really, really well. The Petrovization of Matt O'Reilly. There's a poem. There's technically a poem for you, Kev.
It's a blog for James.
It's a blog, yeah. Let's get involved. Absolutely. I will be talking about Taylor. I want to talk about the performances of some of the guys at the weekend. Maeda, for example, Matt O'Reilly. I want to talk about also, I found it quite interesting that the team that started at the weekend, we always have our kind of pre-match predictions, who's going to be playing and why, who drops out and why, and all this. But I don't think anyone expected Jamesy Forrest to be starting. No disrespect to James, I've always stood up for him. But it just shows you that Brendan Rodgers is picking the team based on a tactical ability, if you ask me. There's a reason he picked James Forrest and didn't pick Palmer or Yang. We didn't see that come to fruition because of the sending off of Joe Hart, which we will be talking about. Thanks everybody for getting involved in the comments. I'm going to bring some of you guys in now. Michael the boy, Maeda wouldn't be at Celtic if he added finishing to his game. Wee man has the rest of qualities in a modern day footballer. And then every so often he'll show you that he can finish as well. Now, I think during the pre-season, we've seen a game in Japan where he scores a hat-trick in one half. Jerry, and you're thinking, wait a minute, Liam Carrigan's been telling us for the last couple of years that he's a centre forward. Why does he not get more game time? Kevin's giving you an idea of what could happen if you were to switch the shape of the team. I want to start off with Maeda, though, because he is a player that he was indispensable to Ange Postecoglou. He came to the club and he was a massive part of 5 trophies in 2 seasons. And then in the pre-season, when Brendan comes in, you start to ask yourself, how does Brendan Rodgers use his wingers? Is that going to suit the wingers we've got at the club? You ask the same question about the full-backs. How's he going to utilise them? Does it work? And then I think Maeda this season has taken a few games to get going, Jerry. But now that he has, and maybe Ibrox being that game where he's turned a corner, he's undroppable for Brendan Rodgers, absolutely undroppable. And in putting this out in the socials, I've used that image of him and Maeda after the game, embracing, because you think to yourself, he's got the buy-in. Obviously, he's got a new contract and everything else. Maeda's bought right into Brendan as well, isn't he?
Definitely. And it took a wee while, didn't it? I think it seemed to be a kind of a stuttering start. Well, obviously, the hat-trick pre-season. But we'd been here before with Maeda, just before he'd gone to the World Cup. There's people getting on his back, and then he came back again, proved us wrong. He just seems to have wee dips now and again. I get sometimes with the frustration in front of goal, but I think he's that fast. He's too fast for his own feet at times, I think, when he's got this, when he's just bombing at it. But he gives us something different that I can't see that any other team has got. And I mean that. I'm not just saying this to keep extra praise on him. Like they said in that comment, see if he was adding more goals to his game. Just think of the attention he would be getting right now. The attention that we wouldn't want him to be getting, because I would have him in my team first any game of the week. Any game of the week. And I think our previous managers even been on record saying that he would take him to any of his teams. So I think we need to be wary of that one as well. Maeda for me is, I don't even know what his position is. What is he, a centre-back, defensive midfielder, wing and striker? Because
he's not bad full-back as well. He does that work. Kev mentioned about, listen, by the way, Jerry, I know that you're relatively new to the Acsom game, but see back in the day, right? See Kev and data and all that. You weren't a big fan, Kev. To be fair, you were not a big fan. So I love it now when Kev gets the data out. He gets the flip chart out and he starts telling you, yeah, defensive, aerial duels won and all that. I love this because it's been a big turning point for you, Kevin, in terms of going for all that data nonsense to actually tapping into it, Kev. I think you love it secretly.
No, I didn't love it secretly, but sometimes if I need to believe that I'm right, I like to have figures to actually back up that I'm right. But you want your wingers to dribble past folk, eh? And Maeda does actually dribble past. Well, you want your centre midfielders to carry the ball and stuff like that, eh? And when you see Maeda O'Reilly having four dribbles in a game, Cal McGregor running with the ball 3 times. Well, you've got to remember, these boys only have between like 50 and 60 touches of the ball in 90 minutes. So anything that you're looking at someday is a small sample size, eh? Mm-hmm. But then when you have a look at them, you say, well, O'Reilly and Cal McGregor carrying the ball. And you look at Rio Hatate and you're going, doesn't he carry the ball? He passes the ball all the time. He's the worst in possession and stuff like that. And you can actually see how sometimes how the data influences team selection at times. Hey, look, Hatate's getting back up to speed. He does give us something that we haven't got. But he just have a look and sometimes go, why is he playing out there? Then you look at a start and you go, well, that's the reason that he's playing out there. Yeah, that is the reason that he's playing out. I like how Jerry mentioned that Maeda is a frustrating player. He is really, really frustrating because he's got the tools in his box and he does something like for the second goal where he runs in front of the ball because he's too quick and the ball hits him on the butt and bounces out the way. Where you go, why did you not just hang back and you're side fitting that into the back of the net? He tried to hit the Shoreham centre in Livingston a couple of times with the ball. But we've got to accept a reason. There's a reason that Maeda's playing in Scotland. There's a reason that Maeda's playing for us is because he has got rough areas in his game. He's very, very frustrating. I think he's the biggest cult that we've had since Samaras as a centre forward.
Yeah, that's
because
a good shout.
Samaras used to frustrate the utter life out of you. Then you had that one season in Europe under Neil Lennon where nobody could handle him. When he played up front himself when we qualified for the last 16 of the Champions League.
Can you remember,
Kev? Handle him whatsoever.
Can you remember the links to Barcelona that season?
I can't remember them.
Samaras was linked
that.
to Barca. Yeah, I think it was actually a fan poll. They polled the Barca fans, who would you like to sign for the club, and Samaras won the vote. But as Kev says, he divided opinion. I love Celtic having a cult hero in the team, and I thought that kind of thing was dying out in the modern game because everybody is, very much data driven and sports science, which I totally accept. But Kevin's flip chart is just out of shot there. Sorry, Kev.
But I do, to caveat all of that, I think Maeda playing on the wing highlights some of his deficiencies more than what it would be playing through the middle. I really do think he should be get played through the middle, and for us to do that would be a change of shape. And look, I can Hugh Keevins is shouting about your wingers are no good enough. The wingers that we bring in is no good enough. That's why Maeda's out in the wing. I'm really wondering once our wingers are up to speed, and Rodgers has had a decent hold of them for a couple of months, and they're up to speed, that we might see a change of shape. We might actually see Maeda through the middle more often with Kyogo, or you could see a diamond in the midfield with Kyogo dropping deeper. Because can we really afford not to let Maeda go through the middle with what he's got?
I know.
Kyogo is a better player. I'm no arguing that. That is no up for argument. But sometimes you've got to look at the strengths that we've actually got, and I think sometimes Maeda frustrates you wide because it highlights the deficiencies that he's got in his game. But then you look at that finish. You look at that finish on Saturday, man.
We've seen the same thing against Hibs last season, Kev, at Easter Road, where he pulled one out the bag. But what you're saying there, I actually felt against Feyenoord, not before the game, as it happens, but when I'm watching the game, the fact that Hatate was playing so high and he was right up at their goalkeeper, right up at their centre halves, I felt that role would have been better suited to the likes of Maeda. So he's through the middle, but he's doing that work and he's maybe linking up with Kyogo. It may be something that we'll see when the game allows. There's loads to get through, and I'm really keen to bring up as many comments as possible. We've got Patrick Murphy, who's on the live chat. If you are on YouTube and you want to get involved, disagree, agree, or just have a conversation amongst yourselves, which happens all the time during these, once you go back, it's great. Patrick Murphy, all you need to do is subscribe to YouTube. It's free. Hit the notifications bell and our content will be on your screens every day. If Maeda improved his composure and technique on the ball, he could possibly be a world-class player. His energy is boundless and work rate phenomenal. There's a reason he always starts at Ibrox. Yeah, first name in the team sheet at Ibrox mainly. Michael the Boy, you're back in. Message to PJ and the Acsom team. Keep up the good work you do. Hail. Thank you, Michael. I really appreciate that.
Cheers, Michael.
And Joe S., well done to all the team for 2 categories, the pod for me and you. Good luck. Well, listen, what you're talking about there, Joe, is that in the past, I'll go back, Kev. We were recording a Celtic State of Mind at my kitchen table and your kitchen table, and we didn't even know how to use the wee bits of machinery and all that. What were they called? Zoom boxes, is that right? Zoom box.
The Zoom, the H6s.
Yes,
I even
you're
know
getting too technical. You're
getting
too technical.
Technical terms for them.
And then I would take the audio files home and spend like 4 hours editing every show and all that, Jerry, and it was great fun. So we decided after a while.
It took him days, Jerry. When it came, what took him days. He had to edit every Ken I says. I had to take that out, and it took him days to actually get every and Kens and stuff like that.
Well, I'll tell you something. There was a line in the show that I was in Welsh's porno. Then basically Spud says, "See, everyone else in Scotland, it's like, do you know what I mean? Why do they use 4 words when they can use 1, Ken?"
That's it.
But people are on the same page.
On the same page, in some respects. So what we did in that first year was basically learn how podcasting worked. I'd been on a couple talking about books and stuff, but I didn't know what it was all about. And we got nominated for a football blogging award, as it was called back then. It's the same gig, and we won it, and it was the best in the UK, and it blew us away. So we tried to up the game a wee bit, and we went into a recording studio in Stirling, near to where Kev lives, in the toll booth, and the sound quality was better, but he still said Ken 73 times in an hour. That was fine. We started leaving them in, Kevin, didn't we? And just try to grow from there. And what happened with the Football Content Awards, is now, actually, as of this morning, we've been nominated for 2 Best Club Content Creator and Best Podcast International. We've stuck a wee link underneath the video. Wow. If you enjoy what we do, you can go in there, you can vote. And as I say, it's drop-down menus on their webpage. We're in the category of Best Club Content Creator International and Best Podcast International. Go in there, give us a wee vote. We're going to be going down in November to Liverpool for the award ceremony. It's always a good laugh. The first one we went to was in Ali Pali down in London and resulted in my dad shadow boxing Razor Ruddock after a few pints of Guinness, which was good fun. And we've also been down to London a couple of times, down to Manchester, we're going down to Liverpool. So thanks everybody for your support. We would love to bring the trophies back up the road. We've got 5 having been finalists 6 times previously. It would be brilliant to add 1 or 2 onto the trophy cabinet as well. Because, I mean, listen, it's a team effort. A lot of work goes into it. So thanks, everybody, for getting involved in the chat, everybody who goes on to vote for us, and everybody, of course, who contributes to the show as well. David Boyle, for me, it's clear Maeda is best playing central, just what we're talking about. 2 up top might suit us better in Europe if we can also pack the middle of the field. And I think that's where the tactician comes into play with Brendan Rodgers. I think that we are going to see a lot of things this season where we go, wow, that is why we brought Brendan back. Now, the one thing I'm going to ask the question around is recruitment, not in a way to put a negative slant on this. Kevin and I were in Glasgow and we were talking to the boys from the Anfield Wrap, Jerry, big Liverpool channel, and they were talking about recruitment. And I think the crux of it, Kev, correct me if I picked this up wrong at the time, or if it's my mind embellishing it over the years, was that Rodgers is a better coach. And although there was recruitment and he identified and recruited players, it was very much like at Celtic where it was almost done by committee. So the club would buy in players and Rodgers would have to deal with them. It didn't feel as though he was comfortable at Celtic first time round with that situation. He much preferred to identify his own players. But I was looking at that start and 11 at the weekend, Jerry. There was one player that came in the summer transfer window that started the game, Gustav Lagerbielke. And there was one player who came in last season, and Alistair Johnson. So the crux of that team was built by Ange in his first 2 transfer windows. And Rodgers is given the ingredients and he can get you a result. So I think that there's been a big onus on Rodgers needs to have his own players and this and that. But if you give him the players, he can get a tune out of them. And I think that was clearly evident at the weekend, Jerry.
Yeah, definitely. By losing Ange with Brendan coming in, it was how is he going to get his own team? He's not got that, we don't think. So like you say, he's one of the best managers at getting the best out of the players that he's got. Kev was talking about maybe changing formation. I don't know if that'll come as soon as January, if it's going to happen. Maybe the summertime. Is he just biding his time, getting the best out of his players? Who knows? Who knows what he's going to do? I think that we've said this countless times. He was the best manager we could have got at the time, and I didn't think we were going to get him back. He's huge. Ever since he's been away, like you've said umpteen times as well, he's become a better manager. He's shown us that by the changes that he's made, that he's willing to make the changes. I think his pressers have been great as well. I'm excited more for the players that we still haven't seen. Is he going to get the best out of these guys as well? You've got like Bernardo and Tilio there on the touchlines doing push-ups ready to come on at any moment, I think. And I'm excited. I don't think we've even seen the start yet, if I'm being honest.
Jerry, is that you getting are you getting back into the montage with music, the boxing training, push-ups and set-ups and all that?
Is Paulie on Rocky's back when you're doing them?
the thing Rocky to come back, I know. I love Big Rocky. Injured.
It's annoying when you bring someone in and he's part of a plan, and he's one of the biggest signings, if not the biggest signing of the summer. Transfer window, straight off the bat, he's injured. I mean, it has been frustrating in that respect. There's been a lot of frustrations, but like you said, Jerry, Rodgers is very calm, cool, collected. I think even again at the moment, Kevin, when Joe Hart's sent off the park, that's a massive blow, right? Massive blow. He's sent off. First thing he does, he gets McGregor over to the touchline. And Rodgers is giving him instructions. He's the gaffer on the pitch. This is what you're doing. This is going to be the shape. And he's calm as you like. He knows exactly what that contingency involves. And he spoke about it after the game, Kev. This is how we play with 10 men. We know what we're going to do. And that, for me, is priceless.
It goes back to what I was saying last Thursday. It's about planning for all these things. It's about these professional football players. We just think they turn up, kick a ball, but go home and play golf or go to the bookies or go wherever they're actually going to go. But the coaches and that didn't. And this is where I want to improve, and I think that we can improve. We do that, and we think, oh, by the way, that's bloody great that we do it. I'm going, well, that should be par for the course. You should actually know what you're going to do when you go down to 10 men. Mm-hmm. You should actually know if a guy gets sent off in the midfield, this is the shape that we're going to go to, this is what we're going to do. If we're playing against a better team, we should know what we're going to do. One thing that I have noticed as well, that we've actually went back to pressing with 2 up front, whereas at the start of the season we were pressing with 3 up front. And I think we were getting a bit overrun with that. But we should know that. And that's what a top-class manager... I would expect David Martindale to do that as well, because it should be a basic function of being a manager. If we go down to 10 men, this is what we're going to do.
Do you know what's different with Brendan? Sorry, mate, for cutting you in, just to make a point on that one. I think you're right. Every manager should have that plan B. But I think what Brendan was different was when everyone at the same time was actually moaning whether it should be a red card or not, he didn't even think of that. He just went straight to, right, let's fix this and worry about if VAR's going to change it. And that's what I loved about him. A lot of managers would be giving it like, do you know what I mean? Getting sent to the stands or just having a go, let me see that in VAR now.
You're spot on, Jerry. You're spot on.
He just went straight into that, and that's what I loved about
him. There's also another difference, Jerry, as well. It's all right having a plan, but it's having players to believe and implement your plan as well. Having players that can go, all right, we understand this is going to work, and we're quite comfortable doing this, because players need to be comfortable doing things.
Yeah.
And if they're not comfortable doing it, then... And I think that's what we're actually seeing with Rodgers. I mean, I'm saying, everybody should have a plan. If everybody had a plan, then everybody would be a great manager, and we can, that's not the case. It's having the correct plan for the squad that you've actually got. And going back to the signings thing, Paul, and that he's better in developing players, he says that quite a few times, that he likes development in the players that he's actually got. And he says, the club will give me players and I will develop them. And I think he should be thinking that he's lucky that he's at a club where he can get the number of players that he gets to actually develop. He could be sitting in his Palma villa just now in Mallorca, which sounds actually quite nice. But he could be at Leeds United, or he could be away to Rotherham, somewhere like that.
Could be in Saudi Arabia, apparently.
He could be in Saudi Arabia, but he has to believe that he's lucky to have the Celtic job. And I heard Jim saying he should believe that he's lucky that he had a second chance to get that Celtic job. And I've heard Jim going, he was questioning why he was coming back, whether it was just laziness, it was easy for his family, it's a Dermot Desmond vanity project, And you're just hoping that Brendan, if we've got a fully focused Brendan Rodgers, he's by far away the best coach in that league. Far away the best coach in that league. And far away he will develop the guys that the scouting staff actually give him. And see, when he was dropped in it last week with the BBC or whoever asked the question going, are you happy with the transfer window? Of course, any manager's going to say no, because any manager wants to do better. If you ask Brendan Rodgers, were you happy with that 90 minutes performance at the weekend? He'll probably go, no, because there's areas that we can do better with. That's how you get to the top of your professional game. That's how you get to the top of any professional sport. You learn, then you move on. You didn't dwell on it. You didn't dwell. The day at training, they've probably forgot all about. They've probably watched the game back, pointed out a couple of things, then they move on. They didn't think about that again. They move on to the next game, and that's the way. I think Maeda spoke about that now as well. We can't do nothing about Feyenoord. We can't change it, but we've learned for it. And that's. I don't think we've maybe learned in Europe. I don't think, but I think we maybe need to have a look at that, and that's where maybe better quality does come in. But as I've says, our MO is not going to change. We're going to get guys at a certain age that are going to have certain deficiencies that are going to need to learn on the job. We're going to need to ask guys. We're going to need to ask boys to do men's jobs at times, especially at the top level. And that's how your manager should be the highest paid player at the club.
I agree with that.
Because the manager is the most important guy at the club to make your sum of your greater than your sum of your parts.
I agree with that. And I think we've got a gaffer who can do that. There's loads of great comments coming in, and I want to go through them. Before I do that, our Wander Round Paradise was filmed up at James McGrory Park today. It's a wander round a different kind of paradise, and it will be on the channel between 6 and 6:30. We're quite fluid with that, right? Because it's getting edited as we speak, and it'll be up on the channel hopefully for about 6 o'clock. And when I went up there in the car park was Alan McKeeve and his wee boy Leo, and they'd come up to the stadium to meet us to hand over 4 jerseys for wee Jamie Tierney for the Sell the Jerseys initiative. 4 phenomenal jerseys, by the way, and I'll get some pictures or video content up on the socials to show you which ones were donated, and it was great. Wee Leo was raving about Kyogo and Maeda, and it's brilliant to see. I love how kids are affected by football and affected by Celtic. Who's your favourite player? Nobody says Tony Ralston except me. Who's your favourite player, wee man? Maeda and Kyogo, brilliant. Nobody says Ralston. I don't know why, right? Who?
It's a shame we'll be battling here. Mine's is AJ. Alistair Johnson's my favourite player now.
I can see why. I can see why. There really is.
I want to be his friend.
Right, I'm wondering what we're going to get from Kevin after telling us about the petrovisation of Maeda and O'Reilly. Kevin thinks slightly different about these things. Who's your favourite player, Kev?
My favourite player?
At Celtic, yep.
The fact that I haven't got a straight answer tells you. I love Kyogo. I really do, but that's pretty obvious. But what I really like about Kyogo is how he approaches a game. He's always happy. You can see that he feels blessed to be playing football, and you know that he loves being at Celtic. And I think that sometimes what I did love about Alistair Johnson at the weekend though was the fact is the first time he tried to shoulder charge the big fella and he actually ended up on the deck. Never happened again.
No,
the big fella, he learned once and went, "No, I can how to hit you now." And
I realised.
Aye.
Absolutely, kind of bounced off him, right? But some great comments coming in. But again, thank you, Alan McKeeve. Fantastic bringing the jerseys up. We have quite a collection. I'm going to put them all out actually as a video on the socials at some point today. So thank you for that. Brown Warrior is getting stuck into Kev and Kev's use of the word Ken. A podcast you would love to see is Kev with Ken Bruce and Kenny Dalglish. Ken. And we've also got Joe Hamilton saying, "I've always known what Ken means." Definitely. Stevie Kenny. Is that your name? Stevie Kenny. I'm from Falkirk, and Edinburgh folk think I'm a Ouija, and Glasgow folk think I'm an Edinburgh. But
that's
exactly.
True. That's the same
really?
as me. Aye.
And I got called today. I got called again. I got called a Chukter, and I always felt I don't see it as a disparaging term. I just always thought it was a wee bit more up north. Anyway, call me what you like. It doesn't matter. Drew Mac CFC. Acsom and 20-minute Tims are light years ahead. Great to have different opinions and not all nodding dogs on these pods. Thank you very much, Drew. And yeah, we're delighted to be nominated again. And it's always a great night down there. We're going to have some really good content, standalone, fully produced content between now and the awards as well that we're going to drop on the channel. We've got a brilliant video with some great archive material about Save Our Celts and Celts for Change. We're going to put that up as a wee mini kind of doc, 20-25 minutes. And we've also got a brilliant video which is coming up for the 1-year anniversary of the statue that was unveiled of Billy McNeill on Bell's Hill. So we've got a great video from the day, the unveiling, and some of the ex-Celts who were there on the day. And also Declan McConville. I interviewed him that day, if I remember. He was there, so we had a wee chat with Dec. So look out for that on the channel. That will be coming up very, very soon. Now, Kev was going on about quality, right? About quality and being in Europe and then adding that quality, and I agree with that. But Celtic have got a really bloated squad, Jerry. Another week, you set up an interview for Michael Moffat, the Moff. I pronounce it right, okay? Who had spent 10, 11 seasons at Ayr United. He was granted a testimonial game, and that testimonial game was against Celtic. So what Celtic have done, obviously, they've sent a select. So it was a combination, a hybrid, if you like, of young players and some kind of fringe players to get them game time. And I looked at that starting lineup with interest, Jerry, because I was looking at it thinking, That kind of thing should happen more often. Now, I know it can't happen in the B team as normal in the 5th tier. There's an issue with guys jumping back and forward between the first team and the second team, isn't there? I think, Kev. I'm sure there is. But what should happen is guys like Mickey Johnston need to play football. Guys like Kobayashi and Kwon and Tillio, they all need games of football. And that's where the old reserve league used to be obviously brilliant. I mean, it was worth its weight in gold at the time. You would have the young guys coming through, guys coming back for injury, guys who'd fallen out with the gaffer, people who weren't playing so well. And you had that team. And what would happen from that is the kind of older guys, the senior pros, had to prove themselves again or get fit. And the young players were learning all the time, much more than what you would get out of a textbook. You know, playing centre-half alongside Tam McAdam, you would learn a lot more from that than any kind of coaching course. So we bemoan the loss of the reserve league. It's never coming back. But surely, Jerry, we can set up a series of games, bounce games, you know, exhibition games, games against under-23 clubs down in England, for example, where our fringe players are getting more competitive action than maybe a bounce game up at Lennox Town or, you know, sitting on a bench with no chance of getting on, etc. That's what I took from that game, from the Moths' testimonial at the weekend, was the fact that we've got fringe players who need to be playing football, because we've seen what an injury crisis looks like this season. You can jump from 7th choice to 1st choice pretty quickly if there's an injury crisis. Should we be looking to set up more of these types of games where the fringe players get a run?
I think you did. You get proper vibes of that old reserve league when they were playing yesterday, when you seen the squad announced. I didn't even notice half the team that were in it. I just saw Mikey Johnson straight away and then was like, and then didn't realise Kwon, Tillio, all that. Because there's nothing more frustrating when you know you've got potentially great players in your squad and they're just stagnating. There's no competitive edge to the matches that are playing. And you're right in saying as well, there's a lot of these wee teams that can actually make money off a Celtic team, a reserve team coming. A lot of these teams will be out a lot of the cups by this time of the season. They've got, do you know what I mean, when the cup games are on, they're doing nothing. There must be room. I don't know the logistics of it all, you know, if the SPFL would ever allow it to happen. But I think I would love to see the old reserve set up back. I really, really would. Like you said, it's nothing better than getting to play with a first team player for a couple of weeks in the same team and learning from them. Because I'm sure that they'll be more than happy to pass down their wisdom.
You know this, Jerry, I think the more I think about it, the more we talk about it, I think it's a great idea, because during a season, I remember like even last year, Inverness didn't have a game for a couple of weeks before the cup final, remember? So they were looking for a bounce game. Now, somewhere in Europe, teams are looking for a bounce game for any number of reasons, right? There's a free week, but they want to keep things ticking over. Kevin, as Jerry quite rightly said there, in terms of an attendance, I've just been up at James McGrory Park. They sold 800 tickets for a game of football. In 48 hours, they had to stop selling them. Completely sold out. There is a pull the minute Celtic are involved, and you know, I know it's going to be more popular on international breaks and but over weekends, maybe if you've played on a Saturday, if a Celtic B team, like a B team in the essence of the old reserve style, was maybe playing Partick Thistle because they needed a game, or Ayr United or whatever, I think it works in the favour of us to get the games in the legs, the game time, and it works for the opposition maybe to get some punters through the door and make a few quid as well. Is it doable, Kev?
I think we've got the money to do it, and I think it's something that we've got to, like, look at the money that we've got, look at the shekels we've got sitting in the bank,
Shekels.
Can
I just say, you're talking about Celtic here, no Acsom. It's Celtic, yes. Celtic that's got all the money in the bank.
Aye,
it was just resting in my account.
Yes.
So, if it's all doing the cost and all of that, and if you want to play a bounce game against Partick Thistle, you pay for their packs of Hamilton bus to come to Lennox Town and you play the closed door game. What I would like to see us taking it a bit further. I would actually like to see us playing a whole load of English academies on a regular basis, once a week. I mean, what's the cost of that? A bus down there and stay in a hotel and you come back up, or they come back up. They've got the money to do it as well. Or get into with like-minded teams, maybe for like Scandinavia, Holland, Belgium, and play them at least once a week. Obviously, when it doesn't actually come into like the European, because we play that sort of Pro League in the European games and that as well. But there's got to be other teams out there for the Scandinavian countries go, that right, we quite fancy, we haven't got a reserve league, we haven't got this, we haven't got that. Our players need games at a certain level. Let's actually start doing that, eh? And that's what I would like to see. I would like to see some sort of pan-European B League, reserve league.
Like a breakaway league for the reserves.
Aye, but it's bounce games.
Aye,
it's a bounce league. It's played behind closed doors. There's nothing to do with it. It's just purely for training.
No, I think that would work.
That's where I would want to see us going. Whether the SFA and that would allow it, but they should be. You've got to be progressive with this. Eh? They've got to have a look at it. The Lowland League experience, the Lowland League experience is no working.
No,
because of parochial attitudes of the wee clubs, and I'm going to be demeaning our wee clubs. And they, as I say, I want to leave Scottish football as soon as possible for purely economical and football reasons. We are too big for Scottish football, as those last financial figures actually proved. And that is the only reason that I think we need to leave and let them do whatever they need to do. And I want a pan-European league, and that should be able to happen at a lower down level. Our B team should be able to play Lillestrøm away on a Saturday. No problem. They should be able to play Ghent. They should be able to play Dusseldorf.
Kev, it would have a cult feeling. Wouldn't it have a cult feeling about it? Playing all these European sides, I would, and obviously the big thing for me is what you're saying there. It would also perhaps work as a prelude to say this is how it's done, albeit maybe at reserve level, but in the future it can be done at first team level. But I love that. Stevie Kenny's asking how many tickets were sold for the Rocks game. 800, Stevie, and that was sold with no online sale. Every single punter who bought a ticket walked up to James McGrory Park and bought them.
Mad. I know.
It's incredible. 800 tickets, and they had to say, "Well, that's it. We can't sell any more." And they could have sold more.
Sorry, mate. Did you not mention that beat the? What was you said that beat the attendance for the what league?
It was the Saudi Pro League. There was 2 games with less of an attendance.
Paid the same as the Saudi Pro League for this match. Then
I'll need to get a few more sponsors in, Jerry. I need to get a few more sponsors. By the way, on that note, if you want to sponsor a player, we've been announcing some of the ex-Celts that are playing. If you want to sponsor a player, get in touch with me if you've got a business that you want to promote and be part of the day. That's probably about the only way at the moment you can get into the ground is if you sponsor a player. So we've been announcing guys like Andy Payton, Scott McDonald, Tommy Johnson, Rudy Vata. It's been brilliant. It's been phenomenal. And hopefully we've got a few others up our sleeve as well. Smell the glove. Ask any retired player and they all say bring back the reserves because it's how you learned. This is what I feel as well. You've got George McCluskey there. You ask George where he learned the ropes and he'll tell you it was the reserve league. Because, a lot of that was just learning by doing. That's the best approach for a lot of footballers rather than, on a training ground. You're actually in there. You're up against sometimes £1 million players. I mean, Kwon was playing there at Somerset Park. It cost £1 million. And you think to yourself, that's going to work well, despite what you might think of him in his fleeting appearances in pre-season. That's going to work well for a young midfield player. I'm sure a young midfield player could learn from these guys. Edward Moore, we need to bring back the reserves. I think the issue, Edward, is the fact that it's an overhead for the teams that are involved. And some of the kind of smaller teams that Kev mentioned, they didn't want to pay the overhead. I think at the time, was it something like 60 grand a year, Kev, to keep a reserve team in the league? And they would much rather have not had it. So I don't think we'll ever see it back, Edward. We're going to have to do it a different way. Ian McMillan wins at Pittodrie, Ibrox and Livy while struggling for form and personnel bodes well for the SPL. Europe, however, is another matter. And I'm looking forward to seeing Lazio in a couple of weeks' time. I've spoken a wee bit about some of the performers at the weekend, but let's go back to a point that Kev made, Jerry, about your namesake, Greg Taylor. Now, I think I said after the St Johnstone game, Taylor was starting to look something like his old self. And a big part of that was it was clear that he was playing more inverted. It's basically a return now back to what he was doing last season. And his performances have improved as a result of it. He was brilliant again at the weekend.
Yeah, it made me so happy. He looked like he was enjoying it as well. Like he just back to his best, and long may it continue. We've said it countless times that we want to be wrong, that he should be dropped. I think Bernabei did him a big favour, because I think we wouldn't. I don't think we'd be seeing Greg Taylor in the team if he had a left back that was competing, that was behaving himself, that was disciplined. But I'm glad he's got this chance again, because I did this when he was out of form. I went from saying drop him to then saying he was one of my favourite players, and I'm doing that again now. I think he's a great player, but he also, and we talk about this, I'll get slagged for it, but he does add something to that dressing room, because every player talks about it. He's apparently one of the nicest guys in there, one of the hardest workers, and he seems to love being at Celtic as well. Like the last comment, well, let's see when it comes to Europe, but definitely pass marks so far. And I'm confident that after that Feyenoord performance that we're going to pick up some points in this group. I'm confident enough to say that I think we're going to finish at least second in this group, and I truly believe that after watching against Feyenoord. I don't think we're going to drop points at home this Champions League.
Somebody's clipping that.
I love
Somebody's
that. I hope it's me that's clipping it, Kev. I hope it's me that's clipping it. But by the way, Kev, someone's clipping your wings here with your suggestion of travelling up and down the motorways in a bus, right? Because Sven Galley, good name. I love the enthusiasm for burning the planet with all these B-team games, Kev. You've not considered the issues with the environment.
Electric buses.
We could do that. Yes.
Right.
We could. Now, I'm coming back to you about Taylor, Kev, because there was a time where something that Kev says was probably clipped by a few. He was talking about the leadership of Greg Taylor, and you actually suggested, Kev, that he had the makings of a captain. You said it. And by the way, I'm not saying it to dig you up. I think that the makings you're talking about is probably what's got him through a rough start to the season under a new gaffer, where he was a bit of a golden boy under Ange. He was in the form of his life. It would have been easy for him to have kind of faded away, but he's not. He stepped up. You were speaking about his leadership qualities, and I think he has shown that. And he's shown a personality and a character to get through a poor run of form. And you're looking at him now and you're thinking, yeah, I just don't want him to get injured, because I'm not convinced about his backup. But I think Taylor has come through that tricky period that he had. But you called it a while back, didn't you?
I didn't really call it. You're talking about.
I'm trying to give you a wee bit. I'm trying to give you a bit of praise here, Kev.
You're talking about a guy, by the time he was 21, had played over 100 games for Kilmarnock, was a captain of Kilmarnock when we actually signed him, who always looked a decent fit for that dressing room. He always did look that. I always remember you telling me, Paul, when you went to Cluj, and you stayed in the team's hotel. I'm not dropping you in it here, but you did stay in team's hotel.
I didn't share a room with Greg, though.
Because there wasn't many hotels in Transylvania. That didn't have ghosts and Dracula in them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you says when you saw the team dynamic, Taylor and Bruni were the two main characters that were there, that were getting the players laughing and all of that. And you had a look at him on the park as well, and you look at the adversity that he has come through. And I think Saturday was a perfect example. I think he's just got used to what Brendan's asking him to do. Didn't he come in all the time, because I'm not asking you to do that. Learn when you've got to come in. Learn when it's doable for you to actually come in the middle of the park. Learn when it's got to benefit the team. And I think he's maybe picking up that now. And I think he had a decent game against Feyenoord as well. I think he had an all right game, a decent enough game against Feyenoord. And look, he's got his faults. Every Celtic player's got their actual faults. That's why they're playing for Celtic. But you've got to love their character, and you've got to love, because it is hard playing for Celtic. It is difficult playing for Celtic.
That standards, it's a 24/7 thing. Yeah.
It consumes and spits out guys who feel that they're actually Billy Big Boss. How many guys have came up to Scottish football and failed because they can't handle playing for Celtic? You look at guys like Joe Ledley. Joe Ledley loved playing for Celtic. And it says it took him ages to adapt when he went back down south, because the standard at Celtic was so high. The pressure at Celtic was so high to win every week. So I think we've got to admire the standard that these players can go, and we've got to praise these guys that, it's fine, it's only Livingston you beat, but you've got to go there and put the shift in.
You've got to go
there and you've got to go in there and do well, or you get slaughtered on social media and stuff like that, or you get slaughtered by journalists who are getting paid to slaughter who have never kicked a ball in their life. You'll get slaughtered by guys like me who have never kicked a ball in their life. And so it's difficult to play for Celtic. Yes, they've got failings, but you've got to love them. They pull in that jersey. Some of them it weighs heavy on, other ones it doesn't, and I don't think it weighs heavy on Greg Taylor.
No, there's a couple of things for that, Kev. With regards to what you said about Taylor showing the fact that he was a kind of go-to guy in the squad. He wasn't even really regularly playing at the time. This is the thing that really surprised me. He was right in the hub of everything, but people were coming to him, but he wasn't. It was like a natural leadership that he had when I was observing him. And also, with regards to Kev never having kicked a ball, it's true, Jerry. He holds a record of being the unused sub in Stirlingshire football, having never kicked a ball for about 17 seasons. But he used to, carry the jerkins and all that and the hampers. So you were still part of the team, Kev. You were still part of the team.
I used to pick the tracksuits. Every season I would pick a tracksuit because I would be wearing it.
You didn't have KG on it, did you? Did you have your initials on it? K-Matsu, Giggsy. I don't see Celtic beating Atletico Madrid, even at home. A draw is probably the best outcome, says K-Matsu. And we've also got being a loudmouth from Loopy33. Doesn't make one a leader. You're right. I mean, Paul McStay led by example. He wasn't a loudmouth by any stretch of the imagination. Now, John Sweeney, we really need to bring in a goalkeeper in January, as Bain won't do his backup. And if Hart were to get a long-term injury, we could drop points in the league. Yeah, it's a concern I've got without getting stuck into Bain. I think there was a decent save in the game by Scott Bain, but Hart, for me, is the same with Taylor. If you lose him, it's the backup that I'm concerned about. Now, there's been a few comments coming in. I've got to wish Laura Bradburn all the very best. She's decided that her time at Acsom has come to an end. That's what happens in the world of podcasting at times. All the very best to Laura and everything that she does. A great contributor to the podcast. And as one goes, another comes back in because we've got Paddy Sinnott rejoining the podcast this week. So that's what happens. The variety of views, I think, is what keeps us going. Especially when I'm hosting most of the time. I need people to come on here and disagree with my ramblings. Thank you, everybody, in the comments section. Well, over 1,000 through that show, which is incredible for a live stream. It still blows me away that we've got 1,000 people watching all at once on the Acsom Bulletin on a daily basis. Thank you all. And I'll tell you what, if you fancy it, right, if you do fancy it, there is a link underneath this video where you can go in and you can vote for a Celtic State of Mind, and you can vote for us for Best Club Content Creator International and also Best Podcast International. We won the Best Podcast when we were recording it at the kitchen table, and I think we've come on a wee bit since then. We've definitely got a lot more voices and faces because nobody knew who was talking previously. It used to just be audio. But give us a wee vote. We'd love that. We'd love to win an award and bring it up the road and then stick it on the sideboard as well. So thank you all for getting involved in the chat. And once again, thank you to Jerry Taylor and Kevin Graham for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.